now, you can't bet on some white knight to stand between that guy and the White House or some easy, simple, uniting process. Right now, there is just Joe Biden and all of you, the American people out there. That's who there is. Joining me now is my old boss, David Plouffe. He was the campaign manager for Barack Obama in 2008 and a senior advisor in the Obama White House. So, Plouffe, I've been talking to lots of people, as I'm sure you have been. I just gave my rundown of my take on things. What did I miss? What did I get wrong there? Don't hold back.
No, it was a great rundown, Jen. I think here's the question. I think all signs point to Joe Biden staying in this race and being our nominee. And that's his right. And really, obviously, he's got family members and advisors, but he's the only voice that matters. And so if he does that, this is a race that we were slightly behind heading into the debate. We'll see where the race stands as we process it in the days to come as we get more data. But CBS News just had a poll today. 72% of Americans don't think he has the mental capability to be president. You're not going to win the White House with those numbers. Now, 49% of the people don't think Trump either, right? So if Biden is going to stay in this race, and I think he is, and I have all the confidence in the world in the campaign, Jen O'Malley, Dillon, and others will run, they could run the perfect campaign. It won't get you to a win number of 270 electoral votes unless that fitness number were to get better. So the question is, what are you going to do? He's going to have to be much more aggressive with all the risk that comes with that. A lot more interviews, even in unfriendly places. I think anyway, do the September 10th debate if Trump does it, maybe do more. Like, that's the big thing. I've learned it can be humbling when you're part of the campaigns. Campaigns don't change big things. They help you on the margins. And there's two big things right now. Well, there's three big things. Donald Trump is a super weak candidate. Who can be beat? People's view of the economy is not what we'd like it to be. It's improving a little bit. How do you win that debate on the economy, where Joe Biden has some strength in terms of he cares about people like me, working people? And then this age and fitness question. So I think a race that was already going to be hard to win has gotten harder, and we just all need to embrace that. And I think what you said was so important. If you believe that Donald Trump's election is an existential threat to the country, and I think probably slightly more than half the country believes that, then this is not a race that you try to win. You have to win it. And so as Joe Biden is thinking about the way forward, in my humble view, that has to be like, you can't lose. You got to win. And you got to be sure you're the right person to do that. I think he's got a lot of strengths. I think he's been a great president, but we have to understand where the race is right now, which is we are behind. And we can talk about all the presidents who had bad first debates, and a bunch of them did. Reagan, Obama, Bush were all ahead in their elections. So we had to take that opportunity last Thursday night. Joe Biden did not. He made a problem that's close to existential worse. It doesn't mean it can't be addressed, but it's going to require great strategy, great tactics. And there's risk on both sides, as you said. There's a whole bunch of downsides about a new process. There's downsides staying where we are. Like, we should just, as you know, having worked in the White House, generally every day is deciding between better and worse options. That's kind of where we are. But, I think this is a race that can be won because Donald Trump showed again in the debate and that awful rally afterwards why there's enough Americans out there that don't want to sign up for another Donald Trump term. But right now, we're not where we need to be. So that's where I think where the focus needs to be is, how do we change a race that we're now heading towards a loss to a win?
And it's very incumbent on the president. I mean, the buck stops with the candidate, just to kind of double down on what you just said. I want to ask you, I mean, there's lots of risks and threats. I do want to talk about the open convention possibility, which, again, is not, there's no indication Joe Biden's dropping out or not going to run. But I think it's important for people to understand, who might support that and might still support that, even if they learn more about it, what that would mean. Explain to us kind of what factors should be considered for those calling for a brokered convention. Like, for example, my view is that if he doesn't endorse the vice president of the United States, that's seismic. You may disagree with me, but what are the factors people aren't factoring in here?
Well, Jen, with the important caveat that this is likely not going to happen. So we're engaging in kind of fantasy, but, we can do that. So first of all, yes, there's a threshold question. Would Joe Biden say, I'm not going to run, and I'd like all my delegates to support Kamala Harris? He could say, I want an open convention where people can make their case. then candidates, Kamala Harris most importantly, governors, senators will make a decision about whether to run. What would that look like? It's kind of gross because it's not voters, it's delegates, but you'd basically be running a campaign, both wholesale. Maybe there'd be debates. There'd certainly be a lot of interviews on MSNBC, on podcasts, people traveling to states, meeting with delegates, smoky back rooms. So that's a downside. It's like insiders picking the new person. The political graveyard is littered with people, Ron DeSantis being the latest member of that graveyard, who look like they were surefire, great presidential candidates on paper. And this stage, as you know well, it's withering. Most people don't survive it. So does someone come out of that maybe the party's divided. So there's a bunch of downsides, no question. There maybe is an upside, which is it's a younger, newer face. And we know a lot of Americans, including a lot of Democrats, would like another choice. So that provides, I think, some energy. It's a different race for Donald Trump to win and run, I think, much harder. But so I think that, as often is the case around the presidency and presidential campaigns, there's no Aaron Sorkin screenplay here. There's downsides and challenges, but some upsides on each. But it would not be people who think, oh, we just get somebody else and they're going to walk to the White House. That is complete BS. There's a bunch of landmines in that option as well. I also think there's some upsides, and I think Joe Biden is at the lowest point right now, I think, in terms of his campaign. So you've got to think he can grow from here. And so a race that looks right now to be Donald Trump's small, but, it reminds me of 12, right? There were national polls that showed us tied with Romney, some even down, but we knew reliably we had a small advantage in the battleground states. That's where the race is right now. Can Joe Biden overcome that? I think he can, but we should be honest about where we are, which is without more voters saying, actually, I think he's up for this, we won't win. That's my humble opinion.
Yeah, I think it's so important to be honest about where we are and honest about the fact that there are real discussions, important discussions that people are having out there. And it's important for people to inform themselves and know and understand all the paths. David Plouffe, thank you as always for helping me break all of that down and help people give people more to digest.